the wind was blowing my direction. I'm an end unit. And so the fire blew into my condo. And I would say 70 to 80% of all of my stuff was destroyed, gone.
Okay.
And I thought I had enough coverage, but I did not.
What were you
We
covered for? How much were you covered for?
45,000. But you are really surprised when you start going through um, all of the things that you can't use if you've had a fire, even if they're still perfectly okay, you can't use them, like spices. And I had an entire spice rack of about 30 different spices, and those things are like $5 a piece. But the hardest part was like proving that you had that stuff,
Hmm.
because it was, like all of your clothes, most of my clothes were either burned completely or so damaged by soot and water and the fire that they weren't cleanable. Just going through and itemizing and determining how much the value, replacement value, because I also had replacement value insurance,
Hmm.
determining that value was very hard, because the clothes that weren't completely destroyed was pretty easy because you could just look at the labels and you write it down. But that's like a very arduous process to go through all of this gross, disgusting stuff that's laying in puddles of water with soot from the fire, and try to identify what they are, log them, and then be able to turn them into the insurance company. And then insurance will, even though you have replacement insurance, if you don't replace the item, you only get 50% of its value. If you actually replace the item, then they'll cover the full amount, up to the amount that you're covered for. So just like I talked about the spices, we had to go through and log each spice and then figure out online how much each spice cost in order for me to go through. And yeah, a lot of picture taking. So like up front would have been, what would have been helpful to me is know all that stuff, know the stuff that you have to prove that you own in order to get reimbursed for it. And when you've had a fire, it's very hard to prove that you owned a lot of those things. It was really hard to understand why you had to have those proof. I had like spreadsheet after spreadsheet that listed everything I had. And I had State Farm insurance. I don't know if that matters or not. Adjuster came in and looked at it and said, you know, everything in here is damaged. You can't really save anything.
You had to identify everything. How long did it take you?
Weeks. When you started buying stuff, that was the other thing. You had to pay for everything up front. So what you would do is you would replace the stuff, and then you would send in the receipts for those things, and then they would send you a check to reimburse you for it. But if you were someone who didn't have that money up front to replace the stuff, I don't know like how you would move forward. So when you're living in a condo or a house, you have to have what's called loss of use insurance, so that while you're still, like in my situation, I'm still paying my mortgage, I'm still paying my condo fees, but I don't have any place to live. It took 18 months for me to get back into my condo. I had to work through them to keep trying to move the condo association on. And there were a total of 6 condos that were significantly damaged. So they weren't just repairing my place, they were repairing all 6 of them. I was frustrated with the adjustment process because I went through 3 of them by the time the 18 months was up. And so it was like starting all over every single time you worked with it. Well, because now there was nothing for the new adjuster to come and see. They had to go by what the former adjuster had documented. And then as you were, you had to keep filling in any blanks that wasn't in the documentation. They had lots and lots of photos, and I took my own photos. So I had tons of photos too.
Okay.
Very frustrating to
Okay.
not have one adjuster take you from fire to resolution. So the number one thing I would tell people, regardless of if you're in a house or a condo, is or a rental property, make sure you have the proper loss of use. In a condo situation, your mortgage doesn't go away and your condo fees do not go away. Number two, I would say make sure you understand all the stuff that you in your house that you need to have insured and the value to replace those items, because that's the hardest part is when the stuff is no longer there, how do you keep track of it? Having gone through the process, I would want to know what I have, A, so I make sure I have enough insurance for replacement, and B, so that when it comes time to replace it, I'm not trying to figure out what all was in the condo. I already have the list. No,
Why not?
because it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But having gone through it, I keep a spreadsheet that of stuff I buy. I put it in. Now it's not 100% accurate, but I definitely keep it for the big things. I was coached on what to get from my agent. And so I now have all the proper coverage for everything that I have in my house that's my personal stuff, including cabinets and toilets and sinks and everything like that are all now covered under my policy. And I have a list of what all of those things are and how much they cost and how much it would cost to replace them.
And
So
where do you keep that list? In the cloud or?
it is in the cloud. Yes. It's on an Excel spreadsheet on in Google Docs.
Are you literally creating a running total of how much you own?
Yeah, but like I said, I would say the first 5 years after the fire, it was 100% accurate.
Mhm.
The accuracy decreases every year the further away it gets because it's not easy to do.